Hey everyone, have you heard about this Jesus guy? I think he's staying here in one of these houses. I really could use his help. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna wait for him to come out and I'm gonna start shouting at the top of my lungs here. I think if we can get his attention, maybe even just annoy him a little bit, we'll get him to help me here. Let's go do it together, come on. Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's EBC. I'm setting the stage this week for Matthew 15 verses 21 through 28. It's the Canaanite woman who pesters Jesus until Jesus helps her. So let's take a look at that story and then a little bit about what it means. All right, at the beginning of the story, Jesus has gone off to two towns called Sidon and Tyre, and they're definitely foreign towns. What we know about these towns comes all the way back in the Old Testament, when at the time of the Israelites in the Promised Land, there are lots being cast for the various lands that the last 7 of these tribes are going to have, and Asher gets the land that includes or is right up to Tyre and Sidon. And then we hear about these towns for sort of their idolatry and the concerns that there are about them being definitely apart from the Israelites. And I just want to set that table in part because this is Jesus actually going to these two towns in his ministry in the middle of Matthew here. And it's about the 3rd time in Matthew where Jesus is trying to sort of like pull himself apart from the crowds and go someplace else. And so while he's there, we have a Canaanite woman who comes out, and the Bible tells us that she starts shouting for Jesus, "Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me." And she's doing it loudly, so loudly in fact, that the disciples are like, "Make her shut up, make her go away." Jesus is ignoring her. And then she continues to persist, and she throws herself down at Jesus' feet. And Jesus comes back and says, "Look, I'm here for the Israelites. I'm not here for you." It's just a really interesting piece of this story, because we know, of course, Jesus is here for all of us, and he's here for the Gentiles, and he's here for all the nations, and we do learn all those things. And so we're going to think for a little bit about what it means that Jesus at that moment is saying, "I'm only here for the Israelites." But the woman doesn't give up, right? The woman then says, "No, look, I really want to make sure, I need you to help me." And Jesus says, "Look, it's not fair," the way he says it is, "it's not fair to give the food for the children to the dogs." And I mean, it's a very blunt statement at that point, right? Jesus is still continuing in this idea that he's really only about the Israelites. And then the woman says, even the dogs get the crumbs that fall from their master's table. And at that moment, Jesus says, "Great is your faith, woman," and he heals her daughter. It's just a crazy, amazing story. And I love thinking about this in terms of like the different ways that Jesus could be thinking about this here. If you go to the Lutheran study Bible on these passages, it actually asks the question about how it is this woman might have affected Jesus' vision of his own mission. And so one way we might even think about this is whether or not Jesus is still developing his own understanding of what God has for him. And that's just a really, really interesting way to be thinking about this, right? Is that maybe Jesus is even still developing what it is he's doing. But I actually think there's something else going on here. And what I think is going on here really starts with the fact that Jesus has gone off to a foreign land. It's not going to be a surprise to Jesus that he's going to meet foreign people in this foreign land, right? He's going to meet people who are not the Jews. And when he sees this woman, he's setting the stage for teaching his disciples about what it is he's there to do by sort of at first keeping this woman at bay and then letting her faith shine through in this story. And when she is as heartfelt as she can be, when she's even sort of almost talking back to Jesus at the moment, right? Jesus is there to say, "Great is your faith." And I actually think it means something really important to us too, right? When we pray, we don't have to worry about whether or not we're offending God or whether or not it feels like we're arguing with God. You can pray from your heart. This woman was praying from her heart, "Jesus, please help me." And so we have that great opportunity when we're asking God to help us. Don't worry about what it is we're asking for or how it is we're asking for it. We have that chance to just speak from our hearts. And so if you take anything away this week, everyone, think about it that when you need God's help, when you're asking for God's help, be persistent in that. You're going to get God listening to you and helping you, and he's not worried about what it is you're asking for. All right, have a great week, everybody, and be that persistent prayer this week.